I'm 75, and I didn't expect to be talking about anxiety at this age, but here I am. I used to think anxiety was something younger people dealt with, something loud and dramatic. What I learned is that in older age, it can be quiet, almost polite, and much harder to notice until it has settled into your bones. I'm sharing this now because anxiety at this age doesn't announce itself. It doesn't crash in. It slips into your routines and disguises itself as responsibility. For a long time, I thought I was just being careful. Careful with my health. Careful with my money. Careful with my time. I didn't realize that what I called caution was really fear wearing good manners. From the outside, my life looked settled. I was retired. My house was paid off. My days were predictable. No chaos, no emergencies. People assumed I was relaxed. Inside, I felt like I was constantly bracing, like something was about to go wrong and it would be my fault for not seeing it coming. It showed up in small, ordinary ways. I checked the front door lock more than once before bed. I reread bank statements even though I knew the numbers hadn't changed. I avoided phone calls because I didn't want surprises. At night, my body lay down, but my mind stayed alert, replaying conversations, scanning the future, rehearsing problems that hadn't happened yet. I didn't call it anxiety back then. I told myself this was just how responsible people lived. But responsibility has a steadiness to it. What I felt was tight and restless. I woke up already tired, not from lack of sleep, but from thinking all night without going anywhere. At first, I tried to fix it the way I'd fixed things my whole life. I pushed through. I stayed busy. I filled my calendar and filled the silence with noise. The radio stayed on all day. The television stayed on at night, even when I wasn't watching. Silence felt dangerous, like it would invite thoughts I couldn't manage. What made it worse was pretending I was fine. I didn't talk about it with my children. I didn't mention it to friends. Men my age weren't raised to say, "Something inside me feels off." So I smiled, nodded, and carried it alone. By the end of the day, I felt worn out, not from doing too much, but from holding myself together. The moment that forced me to stop ignoring it was embarrassing. I was in a grocery store aisle, standing in front of shelves I'd walked past 100 times, and suddenly I couldn't remember why I was there. My chest tightened. My heart started racing. My hands went cold. It felt like I'd done something unforgivable, like I was about to be exposed as someone who didn't belong there anymore. I left my cart and walked out. In the parking lot, I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, waiting for the feeling to pass. When it did, I felt foolish. Nothing had happened. No one noticed. But what stayed with me was how fast my body had gone into alarm over something small. That scared me more than the forgetfulness itself. That night, instead of distracting myself, I sat at the kitchen table longer than usual. The house was quiet. I noticed how tense my shoulders were, how shallow my breathing had become. I realized I'd been living like that for years, as if I were always preparing for a fire that never came. What I wish I'd known earlier is that anxiety doesn't respond to force. Telling myself to calm down never worked. Trying to outthink it only gave it more material. What changed things was getting smaller instead of bigger, narrowing my focus instead of trying to control the entire future. I started asking myself a very specific question. What is actually happening right now? Not what might happen, not what could go wrong. Right now. Most of the time, the answer was simple. I was sitting in a chair. I was breathing. The room was quiet. The danger existed only in my thoughts, but my body was reacting as if it were real. One of the first practical changes I made was with my mornings. I used to wake up and immediately reach for information, news, emails, updates. It fed my anxiety before I'd even stood up. I stopped doing that. I gave myself an hour before engaging with anything outside my house. No headlines, no messages, just breakfast, a shower, and getting dressed at my own pace. That hour became a buffer between sleep and worry. It didn't erase anxiety, but it softened it. It told my nervous system that nothing urgent was happening. That small change carried more weight than I expected. I also had to rethink my relationship with time. Anxiety made me rush everything, even retirement. I walked fast. I ate fast. I finished tasks quickly just to get them out of the way. Slowing down felt uncomfortable, like I was tempting something bad to happen. But I forced myself to move deliberately, to stand still while the kettle boiled, to sit down to eat instead of hovering, to take my time putting on my shoes. Another thing that helped was accepting that my mind would wander no matter what I did. I stopped trying to shut thoughts down. Instead, I gave them less authority. When worries showed up, I didn't argue with them. I didn't obey them either. I noticed them and kept going. Sleep took patience. I had to stop expecting perfect nights. Some nights were light, some were broken. Fighting that only kept me awake longer. I stopped checking the clock. I stopped counting hours. If I couldn't sleep, I got up and sat quietly in a chair. I learned that rest didn't always mean sleep. Sometimes it just meant not panicking. I also reduced the number of decisions I made each day. Anxiety thrives on choice. I simplified meals. I wore the same few outfits. I kept my schedule predictable. Not boring. Predictable. That steadiness calmed me more than novelty ever did. One unexpected change was how I dealt with people. I realized I was absorbing more than I needed to. Other people's stress, urgency, and complaints stuck to me. I started limiting certain conversations. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just chose distance when needed. That wasn't selfish. It was maintenance. I did talk to my doctor, calmly and plainly. We checked my health. Nothing alarming. That knowledge mattered. It removed one layer of fear. But the real work happened at home, in ordinary moments, choosing not to escalate my own thoughts. What I stopped doing was waiting to feel calm before living. Calm came after action, not before. Anxiety shrinks when life has weight, when your days include real, physical moments that anchor you. A walk on the same route, fixing something small around the house, preparing a simple meal slowly. These things reminded me I lived in the present, not just the future. I still feel anxiety sometimes, before appointments, on quiet evenings, when my body feels unfamiliar. The difference now is that I don't panic about the anxiety itself. I don't stack fear on top of fear. I let the feeling pass through without letting it decide the day. What I've learned at 75 is that beating anxiety doesn't mean erasing it. It means refusing to organize your life around it. You don't lose yourself by slowing down. You find the parts of yourself that were buried under urgency. In the evenings now, I sit outside and listen. Cars passing, someone closing a gate, life moving on without my supervision. That used to make me uneasy. Now it feels like relief. I don't have to manage everything. I just have to be here. If this feels familiar and you want to share what you're dealing with, you can. Quietly, honestly, no fixing required. I'm still human, still imperfect, still learning how to live with my thoughts instead of fighting them. And for now, that feels steady enough.